You're listening to the iRacers Lounge podcast, where we discuss everything iRacing in a casual setting. Enjoy. Welcome to the iRacers Lounge. I'm your host, Mike Ellis. iRacers Lounge is a podcast for the iRacer, where we talk all things iRacing in a casual setting. Joining me are the usual characters, David Hall.
We're feeling a little short-handed tonight.
And Greg Hectus.
What's up, everybody?
Hey, and Brian McCubbin.
We made up for last week, Dave.
And Brad Wren.
Hey, everybody.
And John Curley.
Hey, hello, iRacers.
And Mackenzie Stevens.
Hey, how's it going?
And Donnie Spiker.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Full house tonight. On the show, we will take a look at the 2024 Season 1 build. Also, we'll look at what you should expect from a direct drive wheelbase and what sim products you might want to avoid buying.
Yeah, that's right, Mike. And if you join us live at iRacersLounge.com and select show notes, you'll be able to see all these great stories and products we'll be discussing on today's show. So go there, iRacersLounge.com, check it out. The show notes, we'll see you there.
All right. It's build week, and we're going to kind of hit the specific topics that we have additional content on first before we just dive into the deepest part of the patch notes. And excuse my voice, it's going away. But we'll kick it off first with the Oval Refresh Phase 1. So it's a more dynamic racing experience that's on the way for the Oval iRacers. Phase 1 has the users will see much more contrast between surface grip levels as they relate to track temperature.
Okay. And I noticed, I don't know, did you guys notice we raced last night? Some of us did. Brad, you didn't get very long on it, but David, you ran the whole race with me. And what do you think? Could you tell any difference?
I didn't notice a big change over time, except for the usual change. I always see that when the track rubbers up, I tend to get faster. But I was able to run a line, actually, that I haven't been able to run really since we had all the horsepower. There was you saw what I was doing when you were behind me. I was running this different, just a really, really late apex line, especially out of 3.
Yeah, you were like in the middle of the corner and just turned left to the bottom, from the top to the bottom somehow. And we're all pushing tight. I don't know. Brad, did you notice anything?
No, not really. I wasn't in the race but for 60 laps. I think we've talked before. I just kind of hope that this maybe gets us back to where we were, 16 and 17.
It felt like that.
I think what happened back then was a tire model came out and kind of broke the dynamic track that they had recently put out that did basically the same thing this is saying it's going to do.
Well, since we're already talking about it, something that did happen that I've never seen happen before. I was running, I had really good long run speed. I was running with a bunch of the 5,000R rating guys towards the end. And I had this fellow that was basically I traded spots with 3 times. I think I ended up finally pulling away from him in the end. But I'd never seen that happen before. I caught up to him and was able to pass him. I'd pull away to about a second, and then he started doing something different and would catch back up with me. So I'd never seen that happen before. Usually once I caught somebody and passed them, I'd leave them in the dust. And this guy ran me back down, and then I'd run him back down, and then he'd run me back down. So something was definitely different.
Yeah, I did feel like you could change your line a little bit last night, and you could tell the difference. I know when we were running just in the open practice there, Dave, just in my line, I could knock a tenth or so off, and it didn't seem, the track did not seem to be as static and line specific as it has been.
One point I noticed Christian Schollener was from staff. He was in that race. He was doing a different line than the rest of us. Like we were all on the bottom, and then he was up in the middle. And I pointed that out to Justin. I said we should do what he's doing. He's probably been practicing this.
Or he's just Chris, and he's an insane talent. I mean, he was a pro driver before he went to iRacing. He also did start shifting towards the end as well.
Well, I think we'll see more benefit once we get into open setup races.
Yeah, more to come.
All right, we got 2 new tracks. We got Slinger and Kern. John, I saw you were pretty excited about this earlier.
Yeah, this Slinger, it's an asphalt oval, and what they're saying is it's the fastest quarter mile on the earth. And yeah, I'm excited about it. I like those fast, short tracks, and which is going to be really good because one of the things they've done with the track configs is you don't get punished on safety rating like you used to on some of these small tracks. So I'm excited about the speed.
I want the figure 8. The figure 8 looks like super fun. We got a video that shows the Slinger Speedway in action. And what I like about this figure 8 is the runoff is all grass. I mean, unlike the other figure 8 that we have on the service, Irwindale, like in Irwindale, if you go off, it's all pavement and, you can kind of recover and keep going. But here, like if you go off, it's really narrow and there's grass everywhere. So, yeah, it'll be a lot different.
Oh.
Yeah,
The only problem with the figure 8s are they're pretty much exclusively a week 13 type of thing, pretty much, right? You can never have a figure 8 in a sanctioned official race.
True, but it's still a blast.
Yeah, it's fun, and you'll see them in the hosted session every once in a while too. So they're fun for that.
Yeah, this kind of reminds me of the old Islip Speedway figure 8 races, which were a lot of fun to watch. And when I was a kid, I always wanted to get on there. Now this is just like that, so you can do it this week.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
sir.
agree, Mike, with the grass, because at Irwindale, on your first couple of laps around there, you kind of don't know where the hell you're going, but with the grass, it kind of gives you a definite track layout. So it does look like a lot of fun.
Are they going to put the jump in it like they do at Irwindale too? That's always cool.
The oval, though, reminds me of Southern National, where you go up out of the corner and then down into the corner, kind of like at Dover, too, where you got elevation changes.
Yeah, kind of similar to Bristol. That's what it makes me think of.
Yeah, this seems like another thing that they've been trying to get ready for the Tony Stewart series, because this current Slinger's a big one in his series.
Oh, you mean the
SRX? Yeah.
SRX?
Does that mean they're going to have to come up with a track from Canada that they might be going into, too? Because we don't have a lot of short tracks for Canada at all.
You can just run them around a parking lot, right?
Hey, they want to run street courses. Just rent out a mall and race around the mall.
Like a race around a hockey rink.
Any more stereotypes? I'm listening.
That you could have you could determine qualifying by a curling match.
You can have a sorry button for when somebody passes you.
Women only for the curling match, though.
I think we ought to do the rocket car on this track.
How long until the F1 car is tried around this track to in a video setting the fastest time?
I think Neben did it. I think he already has one out.
Yeah, he was running
Didn't
like
take long.
I think 5 second laps or 5 or 6 second laps.
Okay, I'm going to buy it just to try that now. Here we go.
But are you going to buy the Audi R8 LMS2 Evo? That's the next question.
No. I'll take it then. This is the Audi Sport, and Dave Cam actually did a video about the release, and he talked briefly about this and said, because he did buy it, he said, hey, if you have the original Audi that this one replaces, it's basically the same car. He said, if you didn't like the original one, don't buy this one. Save your $15.
Well, they all have, like, obviously in those those GT3 or those GT3 classes, it just depends on your preference of what you like to run there. It's just they're finally filling out the class properly with the right body types for the GT3 class. But the Audi is good on certain tracks because of the all-wheel drive, and it's kind of basically the Lamborghini is basically the Audi in a Lamborghini body. So it depends on what you want to run.
And generally in GT3, you're either going to run something that you're kind of brand loyal to, or you're going to be one of the guys who's on a team that researches which one has the best balance of power at every track and switches cars every week, right? So, Audi was the first GT3 I think I owned, and it was hard to drive. I definitely enjoy driving the Merc a lot better. It's just harder to wreck, I guess, more than anything.
It's just good to see that, iRacing and IMSA have the relationship where they continue to add to that series. We're still missing a few cars as we go into next year. So I think the hope is that they'll continue to work to where you actually have a full field, of GT3s and the prototypes.
Well, if they get those prototypes fully fielded out, that'll be really popular too. I just hope it's going to be tough to have all those cars in one class. Or in one race class, I guess, whatever you want to call it.
Well, they have been able to bump up the number of unique bodies that they can have on a track, though. So if they can continue that trend, they'll be able to do it.
Right. If they can keep optimizing the sim, where it takes less horsepower, so to speak, they can do that. They can pull it off.
Well, there's been some discussion I know we've had before that they're making attempts, I guess, to look at some different graphics engines or something, where they brought in different people, with a lot of background in different engines.
Well, if
Right.
they start going the graphics way, it'll be the GPU power it's using instead of the CPU power with they're kind of more on, right?
And they've already done quite a bit. I mean, you used to say that iRacing didn't multi-thread, but it actually does now.
It's better. I still think there's a lot of work, but it is still very CPU dependent.
It's still 12 years old.
But it looks good.
Something that probably focuses more on the GP, though, is the grass model. Has anybody turned this on? I didn't change my graphic settings, and I didn't have to reset them. And so it was set to off when I got in the race last night.
I think this is Okayama, so I grouped this together with the Okayama video, which has all the brand new 3D curbs, they call it, 3D curb model, as well as the grass model. I did run a Ferrari around that Okayama a few laps to try to see what I thought, and I liked it. I mean, I could see the curbs look different because they have elevation to them now. Like I can see that they're an inch tall, an inch and a half tall, but like you can visually see it out the window. Now, did it feel any different when I drove over it? To me, no, it didn't feel any different. I've heard other people online say it feels different, but it didn't in my butt kicker.
Yeah, I would echo what you said, Mike. I just before the show did a street stock race on Okayama. Graphics are great. I like what they've done to it, but the track doesn't feel different. It's a visual thing to me.
Well, it can only feel whatever they've scanned, right? If they haven't changed the scan, does it feel any different unless it tells the physics to do something different?
My understanding is this is an updated scan as well.
Okay. Does this mean if,
Is it has it been repaved? I guess is the other question that goes with that. Since the original, who knows?
Yeah, that I don't know, but I do know. I think I remember from the mid-season video update that it was an updated scan from 23.
does this mean I'm going to
So
have to get
it'd be
more,
weathered. Sorry, Greg.
Does it mean I'm going to have to get more Tide detergent because I'm going to get more grass stains in my fire suit?
Well, it was only a season ago they changed how it feels to drive in the grass. I never really tested that yet, but yeah, Okayama looked great. I mean, it has all the new bells and whistles like the tree models and the fence models and all these things that they've been working on, and it pops visually.
Yeah, Mike. iRacing kind of been getting a little bit of a knock for not looking like super modern games do. But I think from watching this Okayama drive-through, I mean it's up there with just about any other game as far as the graphical detail. It's really nice.
Are you talking about the only two games that have come out, Gran Turismo and Forza? Because any of the other games, they've all crashed and burned before they got to release.
Yeah.
Well, not all of them, but we'll be hitting that soon. In fact, isn't that the next topic? I think you kind of gave us a good transition. So, yeah, the ship be sinking, Mac.
Yeah, Mike Straw posted a story that 8 more motorsport games employees have won their case against the company for unpaid wages, ranging from late 2022 to mid 2023. He wasn't able to get a dollar figure, but Motorsports Games will be required to pay all of the back pay wages as well as compensation for unused vacation time. Yeah, I don't know how they're even lasting this long, and if they haven't paid their employees for about a year now.
Well, that's just a certain group that didn't get paid or something. They sued them.
Oh, okay.
This last statement you have written, I don't know who wrote it here. Is this in the article that it may have Motorsports may have killed R Factor 2 as well?
Yeah, so there's a second part to this story by Justin Petschauer, who used to be a staple in the NIS series for several years, and he quit out of protest of the Gen 7 car. It was kind of funny. But anyway, I digress. He posted on the Twitter this guy, Jimmy Allison, who apparently is like a developer that works on R Factor 2. And he basically said, he put out, a tweet that, about his contract and was with Studio 397, and Motorsports Games bought out Studio 397. So he was kind of working for him and met a lot of good people. But, he was apparently supporting the R Factor 2. And he says here, quote, also support on game ends here, go somewhere else. And so, so the question that Justin Petschauer puts out is, well, what happens now with that Le Mans virtual series or Le Mans virtual series that also, they do that Le Mans 24 hours race as well.
How many years are they into that contract? It was a 10-year contract. Aren't they like 3 or 4 into it?
I think 4. We're going on 4 maybe at least.
You'd think like the worst part is that it could end up where it just that they could go bust, and then that contract is just maybe they just nothing gets developed from that Le Mans stuff at all, because they're supposed to have a game come out too this year, aren't they?
Imagine next month when they release the special event calendar and it's got both Le Mans and the Indy 500 on it, maybe even a late model special event to go along with the super late model special event as well. It's going to be crazy. I don't know if I get my hopes up though.
I don't know about Le Mans, but we talked about it last week that there evidently might be some bad blood between iRacing and Indy that's going to prevent them from cooperating anytime soon. Even I don't see why iRacing couldn't throw up. I guess they still have to come up with an agreement to run the Lara car, even if it's not exclusive to somebody else. Indy still has to say, yeah, you can run this car. So
Prof, no power.
So what?
Sorry, I was texting my son.
So I'm thinking, yeah, the rumor mill was that somebody at Indy had ties to motorsports games financially, and that's why they made that deal. And so we don't have any inside sources ourselves that have told us anything, but I wouldn't get your hopes up on the 500. Le Mans, who knows? Because that's a different company that owns those rights.
The one thing that I do find interesting is the issue with R Factor too, because I don't, if anybody knows, I guess within the last month or so, they've launched kind of a online similar, I guess, attempt to be like iRacing. So don't know how popular it is, but it's unfortunate that's going to end up killing the support for R Factor 2.
All these companies keep trying. They just can't keep lasting. There is, like Mike said, 12, 15 years here of iRacing being around, and they're still taking the bullets. They're just grazing off of them.
Like
maybe exclusivity just isn't the way to go with software, and instead just putting out the best product and even going against competition would be the better option.
No, it could motorsports be totally. I get what they do with like licensing for like NHL, NBA, football, things like that. Could motorsports, just because it's so dynamic and manufacturers and all those things, it's too hard to, like David was saying there, it's being exclusive doesn't help with their ratings or popularity to get their thing out there. Maybe it's better to just have as many as they can to try and bring the popularity somewhere. I just think that I felt like we were doing great with having an Indy car, Le Mans, and all that stuff, and then they took the exclusive away, and it just turned some fan bases against those sanctioning bodies.
That's a good point, Greg. I mean, iRacing has, partnerships with not only the NASCAR and IMSA and that kind of thing, but the manufacturers as well and the teams. How do we get the cars and all that? So all these different partnerships put together, I think, gives them an advantage. The other thing I was going to say is earlier today, Codemasters, who does the F1 game, they laid off their whole staff right before Christmas.
It's an ugly business right now with the layoffs. This year in the gaming industry in general, there's something like 6,000 to 8,000 jobs that were lost just from layoffs.
You don't hear that at iRacing. That's really good.
Well, I can tell you when you've got employees who are winning cases for their wages, that's a bad omen for motorsports games, because it's not easy to win those cases for employees. It's a tough business, and that means motorsports games, they're breaching their agreements, and that's a bad sign for the future.
Well, stay tuned next week for the next episode of As the Motorsports Dies. Let's move on, though. How to Race with Max is the next video. I went ahead and gave this one a watch. It's a real quick 50-second video. It talks about how that Max isn't running as much official as he has in the past, but you're more likely to see him at specific tracks. I think it was Sebring and Road Atlanta, or maybe Road America. And then he also pointed out that he actually likes to run C-Fix when it's at Talladega.
Yeah. And he said that's probably the best chance of racing with him, because unless you have a very high I rating in road, it's a lot easier to, find him in C fixed, because his oval I rating is somewhere in the 3,000s. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Have you guys raced with world champions before? I mean, um, I was on track with Tony Stewart once. That was kind of neat. I remember that, but just on the at Pocono virtually, that was neat. But yeah, Max Verstappen would be pretty cool.
I've had Max in a few IMSA races.
I think the closest I came is our IMSA Rolex race the one year with all the NASCAR guys.
I can remember running some truck races years ago with Van Ginsberg.
Oh yeah, I've raced Shane several times at Sonoma and got lapped.
Yeah, last week, one of our team members, Justin Pearson, raced with Dale Jr. at Darlington in the Winter Series.
There were a bunch of names in that. Who else was there besides Dale? Do you remember?
Nim Cross was in it, and there was a couple of Coke Series drivers. Can't remember who they were, but they both had a real tough time, didn't do well.
So does anybody in here do yoga?
Have you looked
No.
at any of us?
Look at the screen, everybody. So we don't do like handstands or anything like that, right? Or any of those crazy kind of stances. But what we might could do is a nose stand, right, Greg?
Yeah, so Josh Gardner posted a video of how to do a nose stand at the Nürburgring on one of the hills here. Quite interesting on this with the Lotus. Was it Lotus 49? Yeah. Definitely not what a race car is supposed to be doing, especially that kind of race car.
What a neat car. I mean, no downforce at all. I mean, there's like literally none. This is like a zero downforce car. It's just like a seat, a steering wheel, and an engine. That's all you feel, really.
He definitely struggled. He did plant the nose into the ground and just flat out missed a few corners as well. Still looked better than me at that track.
I know we talk about safety and stuff nowadays. I just couldn't believe that guys strapped themselves into these cars back in the day and drove with just guardrails and possibly like hay bales on the outside of the track, and if you do crash, you're going into trees, and it just, I don't know. I guess it's
At Monza Oval.
that the love of just racing and being fast, I guess, is the thing, right?
Yeah, and talking about being on the edge all the time, when you have no downforce, you are on the edge pretty much all the time. So I don't know what they had for safety belts. I don't think they had. I don't even know if they had 5-point harnesses
Lap
back then,
belts.
right?
They're all lap
Yeah,
belts.
it was a lap belt, right? That's what I thought. Yeah, it's crazy.
There's some great documentaries out there about F1 back in that era, and Jackie Stewart and a lot of these guys that some got to the point where they just refused to race because they were losing guys. I mean, you were losing multiple drivers every single year. So there's some good stuff out there to look at if you want to explore. But yeah, no downforce, skinny tires. I mean, men, just absolute men.
It's the strangest car to drive because it doesn't drive like any other car because it goes really fast. But when you get to a turn, you have to like stop and then turn. It's like you have to slow down and then before you get to the turn because the thing, just pushes off track because like there's no, like you said, no downforce.
It's mechanical. That's all it is. Everything on it is mechanical grip and the rubber. That's all you got.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if any of you guys ever, back in the day, had Grand Prix Legends. I mean, that's what the car basically came out of. So just a fantastic sim, very difficult, but
Yes, that was
absolutely
one-
fantastic.
That was so difficult, that sim. Holy crap.
Somewhat of the predecessor to what we have now.
Yeah, was that a Sierra game, Papyrus Sierra game, Brad?
Yes.
Yeah.
They had an IndyCar, F1 Legends, and the NASCAR games back then. They used to have all three of the licenses.
Well, I think that goes
Yeah, we
back.
got Go ahead, John.
I was going to say that kind of goes back to what we talked about earlier with these exclusive licenses. I think that was about the time EA Sports got the NASCAR license and kind of ruined everything.
There were some good NASCAR games. They were because the one that I don't know if you guys ever played NASCAR Revolution. Did you ever hear about that one? That was an interesting take on the NASCAR series.
Got into it on the PC side, and I think I had one game for PlayStation. I can't remember which one it was, but I've been PC all the way. Just never been a console racing person.
Well, Donnie, what we got next is a logo that somebody thinks matches a real picture of the iRacing logo. What do you think?
Well, in the forums, there's a forum going around, a thread that they think they found the match to the iRacing logo, and it would be Fernando Alonso back in his Renault days before his time at Ferrari or McLaren even. I remember Renault. I remember listening to an old Downshift podcast, and I could have swore one of the founding members of iRacing claimed that he was the genesis of the logo during one of his racing days. So, however, this picture here matches pretty spectacularly, so it's actually hard to deny. I'm curious if that staffer's story might be true.
I don't think it does. The head's not even at the same angle.
What they needed to be careful as if it is, they don't want Alonso to come after them for the rights of himself.
Yeah, the head is looking. The head is turned more in the iRacer than Fernando's picture, and the body doesn't actually line up. The hips are in a different place. So it's similar, but this person lined up the hands, but when the hands are lined up, the lower body does not line up at all.
I want them to use the image below this one on the forums of him sitting in the lawn chair. That should have been the iRacing one.
Well, I thought it should have been, if you go to the forums, one of the posters, Clyde Coman, he has the best one back on December 4th. I think that's the one they should have used. As a very curvy, long-haired woman.
With gigantic arms.
I want to point out, Donnie's right. Somebody from iRacing, I think it was Dave Kamer from my memory, the founder of iRacing, who's the tire model guy. He used to run Skippies at Lime Rock, apparently, and that's modeled off of a picture of him getting out of the car or something. That was what I remember as well. So I think that's the truth. Now, if you guys go to the top of this page in the forums, somebody else points out the obvious. If you compare the iRacing logo to other sports like NBA, Major League Baseball, and others, they have a similar paint scheme or color scheme, red, white, and blue, with the silhouette of the athlete in the middle.
Well, that's because that's the best colors, right?
You're 66% right there, Greg.
I was going to say you got the red and the white, but that's it.
So even like the Indy Racing League, their logo is very similar. Red on the left, blue on the right, white in the middle.
Well, they're all obviously based on patriotic American colors. As they're generally Genesis. They're American companies. They're American sports centralized, basically. Even though emphasis in road racing is pretty big in iRacing, it still has its genesis right there in New England.
I like the logo. Imagine back in the day when they came up with it. You have software people, you have developers, you had some artist people on staff, I'm sure, but they're thinking, I don't know if they're thinking esport, but they're thinking motorsports. And when you look at these logos from these other sports, it'd be real simple to, let's just kind of model off of this,
It was
looking at the. Sorry.
No, go ahead, Donnie.
Yeah, looking at that page full of, I guess, American-themed logos that you're referencing to, the iRacing one is probably in the top 5 compared to some of these other ones. They did a really good job when they came out with it, hit it, knocked it out of the park.
Yeah.
The actual iRacing one was, if you think about it too, it's clever, for the fact like they could have just done something like simple like a steering wheel or like a helmet or something, and they chose that, the winning stance of what you feel like when you win a race. But it also works really good for the meme that we've all created from it with the soon clock, with the two hands pointing on each side.
Well, if they did that, Greg, would it be an oval wheel or a Formula wheel
Well,
or a GT wheel?
That's the problem. It's they picked the best thing as a driver in a fire suit and a helmet. There's nothing.
Driver winning,
it's iconic, right? It's iconic.
It's that classic pose when you win the race and you jump up on the top of the car and you raise your fingers in the air, and I won it.
I think the only difference nowadays is it would have a Hans device attached to it. That would be the only difference you'd have from back then.
All right, I got a question. Should this next one actually be in hardware, or did you bump it up here for a reason?
No, this is not really hardware. So Justin, no, excuse me, Mackenzie, I think you talked about this place, and so that's why I put it on the script.
Yeah, I forget what I was looking at online, and this place came up. I actually thought it was a place that like sold sim equipment at first, but it just turns out it's another sim racing lounge. I'm not exactly sure what software they use. It doesn't say anywhere, but they do have Moza direct drives, and then they also have a Camus. I think it's the 12 Newton meter. I wanted to go give it a try this week, just never got the chance, so I might go next week to try it out.
Is this the one in Barrie?
This one's in Guelph.
Oh, okay. So it's like 20 minutes down the road from me.
Yeah, you guys are talking about Ontario, Canada, right?
Yeah.
Because there's one in Barrie, another one we've covered, I think, before too. There was one in Barrie, Ontario.
Yeah, there was.
So they have a tri-sim racing deal, $15 for 15 minutes. I like it.
All right, John, it's about time for the semis again, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It's coming up here, and we've got a spot 6,500 nominations for that. How do you pick for those awards out of 6,500? That's a lot. But on our show notes, we've got a link to cast your vote.
Yeah. I went through the process. I didn't recognize a lot of the names, to be honest with you. There were a few names I recognized.
For best team, for best team, you could have voted for Williams Esports. They were nominated.
Yeah, I didn't vote for them, but I voted for people I've heard of, and stuff. Like Evan Pasoko, our buddy Evan was on the list somewhere, and I voted for him.
Unfortunately, Donnie, they don't have a category for best cheater.
Somehow they're nominated for best team, though.
There's not a best podcast on here, unfortunately.
They don't want to humble everybody else.
Well, hit the link. Go make your vote. Brian, we got week 4 in World of Outlaws.
Yeah, guys. So week 4, World Outlaw Thrustmaster Series was back in Pennsylvania for the second week in a row. This time it was at Lincoln Speedway. This race had a lot of twists and turns. A lot of the big names were having problems. The overall number 1 qualifier was actually Alex Bergeron, and he wrecked out of his heat race. He had to go. He started in last place in the consolation race and wound up making the tail end of the of the main. So, more problems for other big drivers. Hayden Cardwell, he was on the pole at his heat, and he crashed on his own. A lot of weird things going on, but in the end, the winner wound up being Kenny Miller, who was actually a same winner as Lincoln as last year. So he repeat winner for Kenny Miller at this track. Logan Rumsey finished second, and Joey Lindgren finished third. Another huge day with the points shakeup. If you remember last week, Evan C. was the points leader going into this race, and he didn't qualify for the finals. So he lost a ton of points, just like Alex Bergeron did the week before that. So this series is in serious turmoil. It's we're almost halfway through, and it looks like it could be anybody's series to win. Right now, though, the leader is Ryan Avalia. Aiden Forster's in second. Tyler Schell, the winner from last year, is in third.
I actually watched this week, Brian, and I was impressed with this track, Lincoln. I mean, I think I told you, I think the guys, some of these guys were ripping the top, like right along the top. I mean, and they were going just a little bit faster than the guys on the bottom. But as the track changed, it changed up. The other thing that I really caught my attention the whole race was not what was happening up front, but watching Alex Bergeron come from dead last up through the field. He finally got up to ninth before the end.
Yeah, and he did a great job. I mean, he was obviously fast. He was he won the qualifying. He had the fastest qualifying, and he started his heat race in last, or the consolation race in last, and they only take the top two. I think he wound up winning the thing. So he definitely had some speed. He just didn't have time to get up any further than he did. So he did make up a point, I think.
He caught a caution there that helped him get closer to the leaders anyway.
Yeah. So it was great race there. A lot of action. So here's a cool thing about this race. The guy who's finished first and second. Again, it was Kenny Miller and Logan Rumsey. They are both real-world winners at this track in sprint cars, and Kenny Miller is in a wingless sprint car. So it goes to show you that maybe that there's something to these guys who actually have real-world track experience. It translates to iRacing, to where they can run really well at this track. So I thought that was pretty interesting.
Track specialist came in and won it as a ringer, basically. Pretty cool.
Yeah, so they're at I-55 next week, which is the smallest track on the service, and then I think they have 2 weeks off for holidays because they run on Monday nights, and that's Christmas and New Year's.
All right, Dave, we already hit the next one, the Slinger video, and I'll touch on the next one. Dave Cam, I mentioned his video before, but the other big tidbit in his video that I think he's real proud of, I wanted to mention on the show, is he said, go into your settings in the sim, go to your hotkeys, and there's a hotkey for weather. And then once you map the hotkey, then you get in the car and do the Control K, where you can like move stuff around, like the relative. Well, you'll see the actual radar screen populated with what you're going to see when there's actual weather.
You think they get it out in a month?
They said they weren't going to drop it if all unexpectedly for the Rolex, so I don't see it coming out till later on.
How much?
Yeah, they said
time? Or not enough time.
Just three cars initially is what was going to get, like the Toyota 86 and a couple others.
And you probably shouldn't test this at the Rolex. You should probably test it in smaller settings first.
Well, especially if Mike's saying there's only a couple cars that it's kind of like ready for. That the IMSA's what, was it 9-10 cars now?
Yeah.
Yeah, it ain't going to be for the 24.
No, no, and I think we've said before they've got to make sure this is right, because if it's not, it will be a huge disaster. The last thing we need is to have them release it and then come to find out you can get out in some sort of different car and just drive like a maniac and it not affect anything.
Okay, John, how about automated driving rules? Yeah, I can't hear you.
Yeah, we've got a rule. Section 8.1 has been updated with notations about automated driving input. And Section 8.1 says that being in sports and motorsports my entire life, this has got me curious. I'd like to flesh out the following. Why do we need this now? Will IR provide more detail on this item? So, kind of an interesting question here.
Well, we were talking about that piece of hardware that does the auto launch for you, right?
Right, conspit, the
Spit
pedals.
pedals.
So
Yep.
this is in response to that, is what some people are saying in the forums.
Does this specifically allow it, or say that it's a specific exception?
So I'm under the understanding from everything I've read, the conspit pedals are allowed as is. But I think the pedals release has brought up the discussion, like how far is this going to go? So iRacing is getting ahead of the curve by, putting out the rules ahead of time. That's the way I read this.
Because it could set up a slippery slope, and the auto launch thing it's in a very limited case, and it mostly just has to do with either launching on the line or getting out of the pits, which there's other options that make that work as well. So, but yeah, imagine if you start basically becoming able to put traction control on a stock car with some kind of AI help.
Yeah, when I read this, I had a different thought. I thought back to DJ EJ's video a couple weeks ago that we covered about cheating, and how that iRacing, after a Coke race, will examine the inputs of the drivers and to see exactly how uniform they are. And this makes me think that they're worried about some kind of AI driving or some kind of automatic driving program or whatever. I don't know what it is, but that's the way I took this.
Well, the rule says specifically drivers may not utilize third-party software and or hardware to modify or automate direct real-time human control inputs to the iRacing simulation. Exceptions may exist under iRacing's sole discretion. So to me, if you read the rule, it's pretty open-ended here. It doesn't really address it directly.
It gives them discretion, though. That's what they're trying to get in there, so they can say it out loud.
Well, imagine if you had software that had access to telemetry, you could basically, like I said, build in a traction control on a car that's not supposed to have it.
There's a post in the forums this week from somebody saying to David Tucker from iRacing, dude, why can't we get like tire slip through telemetry? Well, and he's like, well, because of cheating. There's certain things that will never be put into telemetry, and anything that, might be used to further these kind of things we're talking about, they're going to hold close to the chest. They're not going to share wheel slip.
That's good to know. I didn't know if that was the case or not. So I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, if they had that wheel slip, they could make, some people would make traction control stuff no problem then.
And wheel slip's not the only thing. I'm just using that one as an example. There's other things I'm sure they're concerned about. But anyway, I just thought I'd point it out.
So a couple of weeks ago, we talked about somebody, I guess, complaining about Camel being the name of a series. And, well, they got what they wanted, it looks like.
Yep. So the Camel GT is dead. Long live IMSA Vintage. So the series has been renamed the IMSA Vintage Series as opposed to the Camel GT. At the end of the day, probably a better name for it anyway.
Now, I had trouble confirming this, like going and looking at a series because it was week 13 and I just couldn't find it anywhere. But we do have a post from Greg West on staff in this forum post. And he says this, quote, "We had a cool opportunity to work directly with IMSA to have official branding on the series. I love the vintage logo." So I don't like the fact that they're bowing to political correctness, but to turn it into an opportunity to further partner with IMSA to have a, IMSA, you know, uh, throwback series, so to speak.
That's just the IMSA GT series would just be those two old cars, right?
Yeah, the one that
Yeah.
looks like a wedge is one of them.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
It's the Nissan, isn't it?
Yeah, Nissan and Audi, or the Audi, isn't it? Yeah, the Audi.
Yeah, like a boxy looking Audi.
The Quattro.
Curious what the issue was to begin with. So Camel Cigarettes is a CAMEL here, but I think it was a K somewhere else a while ago, but the logo doesn't. The camel with the K logo didn't match the camel with the C. So what was their issue?
Bet it sounded like camel.
Yeah. I
There
mean, if
was
you can remember.
one guy who
Yeah.
posted in the forums, and they deleted that post like a month ago, and we even talked about it briefly on the show. But that's it. I heard one guy complain. That's it, and they bowed to it.
Is he going to go around and shoot all the camels in Africa now because they named cigarettes after him?
Well, I mean, it goes back to when, NASCAR had the issues with Winston Cup and with beer and anything else, back in, I guess, the early 2000s, where it wasn't Budweiser on the car, it was Dale, or if it wasn't light, it was Rusty. So unfortunately, it's, tobacco and the rest of that's big and evil unless you can make lots of money off of it.
Young.
And
kids
what
are
just happened
impressionable.
to the Winston Cup Museum that was named Winston Cup Museum? They actually had to close because they're being sued because of the name Winston.
Yep.
Well, let's talk about new stuff instead of old stuff, I guess. We're now down to the 2024 season 1 patch notes. We can hit the highlights, I guess, real quick before we just kind of peruse and see what we want to talk about. We've talked about the GT3, the Autodromo Internazionale de Mugello is out with a Grand Prix in a short.
Mugello.
Is it Mugello?
Mugello.
Yeah, that's right. It's Italian, not sorry. Slinger Speedway is out. Okayama, we talked about that. The Oval Refresh, talked about. 3D curves recovered. 3D foliage recovered. There's 16 new damage models. I'm not going to read those. New
That includes
iRacing
the cup
vehicles.
cars.
Did they do some work on the cup cars?
Yeah, damage
On the next
model's
gen.
different. Apparently, the nose comes off easier.
Cool.
Yes, I experienced it last night.
Before you go on to the next one, remember when they first brought the damage model out, they were only getting like a couple at a time, and now they're almost pretty much getting the whole catalog is caught up. They're doing a really good job of getting caught up now.
Well, the first net damage model that came out for next gen essentially tanked, right? It failed. They had to just roll it back. They've probably learned from that, and so it's probably just not as hard to do now. They know exactly what to avoid.
So, when you go over the highlights, I mean, the only thing left, David, was AI was done on a bunch of tracks. But it's a really light build from most people's perspective. You got one car, you got 3 tracks, and you got some other stuff. And so it's not real content heavy like usually, but you got to remember there's a huge focus on rain, tempest, weather, and that's coming soon. Hashtag soon. So that's the reason it's a light build. That's the way I see it.
Well, and I think from the oval side, finally getting the refresh that we've been asking for, I think is good too. So again, I think not every build can be huge. I mean, guys that have been around the service for 12 or more years can remember when you didn't get a car every build either.
I'm happy with the build. I don't ever get upset with the builds too much. I run what I run, and I'm happy with that. But I don't know. I looked at it, and I wasn't too disappointed. It seemed okay.
I don't know, Mike. You could probably remember this when we were first back in the day when it knew like the one thing we always had was there was a new oval track that got scanned every build. Like you used to have the Cup Series that when before it was filled out, you'd have waiting on certain tracks to be updated and brought to the thing where you could have a full Cup schedule. That's why the NIS Series took forever to formate, because they didn't have all the tracks for the longest time.
I think this oval refresh is going to be a bigger deal than we think too, and that they're putting a lot of resources into that, and of course they got to have a whole lot of hands on deck for rain right now.
If they're putting if they're putting a lot of resources into oval updates, how many more tracks, how many more oval tracks are there out there that would be a Cup car, to drive on? Is really not. So if they're focusing more on the driving of the car and the conditions of the tracks and the live updates of the tracks, I think that's a good way to focus the resources.
I was going to say, the other thing I mentioned that I think affects you more than anyone, David, the legacy member site, members.iracing.com, will have most functionality disabled after the new year.
Not happy about it.
So go ahead.
Unless they put out a new UI, that's just dumb, because the UI still sucks.
Well, we've got the web version of the UI
that's just the UI in
the
web browser.
Yeah, but it doesn't do everything. You're still going to go back to the UI.
Where would we go to look up our archive results from years ago? Is it going to be the UI or the website?
I got a simple request. Give me this. Just put a web browser inside the UI that can access the website, and let me do it the way I've always done it, but inside the UI, and I'll be fine, because that should give them the ability to protect. They're wanting to do it for anti-cheat reasons. So just give me the web address functionality inside the UI, the way it used to work with the bookmarks and everything, and all the things that are not in the UI, and I'd be a happy camper.
Well, there was another thing I noticed in this update was the graphics. The slider's gone, and I noticed in the races I've done, it seems like my frames, I'm getting more stability in that. I don't know if that's imaginary or not, but that seems to be an improvement.
Well,
I feel like mine have been improved.
Yeah, I mean, I said yesterday, when I took screenshots of all the settings just in case I launched and everything was changed, but it wasn't. But when I went in and looked at the INI file, the GPU memory was higher in the INI file than what it had been previously. So I don't know if that's playing into it or not.
So they had some other changes to the sporting code as well. And I remember 2 years ago suggesting that for particular drivers that cause problems in a particular series often, they should just, as an intermediate penalty, instead of banning them from the whole service, they should just miss a couple of weeks of the series that they're causing the trouble in. Right? I called that out a couple of years ago. Guess what? It's now in the sporting code.
SR has changed a bit on oval. It says all oval track configs now calculate drivers SR based on a factor of 4 corners per lap. Previously, many small ovals were using a value of 2 corners per lap, which would make penalties more punishing for races of similar lengths than those at larger ovals.
So
this change will help equalize
murdered
SR.
at Martinsville.
So if you get a 4x or you 4x and crash out on the first lap when you break a toe link, you're SOL.
No, even if you completed the whole race, you would lose more I rating because the laps weren't giving you as many corners. So if you got all the way through Martinsville, if you got through the whole Martinsville race, but you finished with 20x, you got hammered.
So what happens with Pocono?
It's 6 turns.
They forget about the tunnel turn. What about Indy? Is that 8?
Well, I think the issue is the short tracks. They were only counting 2 corners. So take Martinsville versus Texas. Texas, you're getting 4 corners. Martinsville, you're getting 2. So SR is calculated on number of corners cleanly. If I'm correct in saying that, I think I am. So the more laps that you do, you were being, like we said, being penalized at Martinsville. You run 500 laps at Martinsville versus 500 laps at Texas. You could have the same number of incidents, but your SR would be affected worse at Martinsville than it would at Texas because you're only getting credit for 2 versus 4 corners.
I think you should get credit for running caution laps cleanly at Martinsville since half the race is cautions.
God, I was wondering if the caution thing was coming.
Got to add for the quad ovals at Texas and Charlotte as well. Those are 2 extra corners.
6.
Donnie.
They did also add in the sporting code the thing where you can have your win taken away from a race if you do something, I guess, dirty to take the win.
We talked about that when that was first announced, and I guess it's really going to come down to when we actually see it play out to get an understanding of how exactly it's going to work. We speculated quite a bit, but it'd be interesting to see what happens when it actually gets done.
Does that mean those moon races, if somebody really wanted to protest that, could they take the win away in that thing and get somebody banned because every one of those races someone's flipping down because it wrecked at the start finish line?
Is that are those official races?
I guess it's
they're
official,
hosted.
right? It'd be only official, right?
Nothing major as far as other than a couple of new cars. Nothing major in the car section, just a lot of tweaks.
Stage setups, that kind of stuff. Little tweaks on a lot of stuff. But yeah, I don't think we need to list off those.
And same things on the tracks. Other than the new tracks, it's just some minor adjustments.
Yep, the build notes are there. Have at it.
And that brings us to our next topic, which is the preliminary schedule. And I have not taken a look at it. Has anybody?
You missed one.
Did I?
Oh, no, you didn't. I'm sorry. I'm out of order.
I know I did earlier, but I got it. You got this one. Yeah, so it's the schedule. The preliminary schedule's out on PDF if you want to download it and have a look.
What is anybody running this season? Anybody running anything?
Winter series until NIS starts.
I'm really hoping someday we get that IndyCar series back. That's the one I'm really missing, is having an IndyCar NIS series.
What's nice about that one? It was only 17 weeks throughout the year, so you can good chance of making all the races for that one. But I'm hoping to do the 12 weeks of both IMSA and the Michelin Pilot series. Those are the 2 I'm going to probably do through the winter.
Yeah, I'll get a few IMSAs in as well.
I'm going to, I just got back into racing, and so I'm going to, pick up, the winter NIS with Justin and run that. So that's kind of my plan.
We all know how much racing you're going to get doing now.
I'm off work until the 18th, so.
I'm not sure if you answered my question, but we're going to need a video somehow from the outside of when you're running the rig at full volume.
Oh, I'm not running full volume because I'm in an apartment now, so it's about half.
No excuses.
That's right.
Well, I did
Maybe
see
during the day I'll try that.
I did see on the schedule the next gen cars are going to run at Motegi. I don't recall that ever happening before.
Off season, they do weird stuff.
That's the Motegi. Is that the bigger, the weird egg shaped big one in Japan? It's like a bigger
Yeah.
track.
Yeah, NASCAR ran there back mid to late '90s, late '90s.
I did a race there, a fixed race there. I think last year. That would be a really fun track if they actually raced there because of the way that it's a flat track with two weird corners.
They're going to be on Long Beach, the street circuit.
Maybe that's a secret test.
We're going to every road course in NASCAR that's possible. We're going to be in Las Vegas at some point with F1.
I'm curious if they can make that hairpin at Long Beach. I don't know if they can.
Isn't the NIS usually considered season one part of the season one schedule? It's not in this one. It's just a winner. But I thought it usually is included in season one.
It will count as season one because season two will not have started yet, but it won't start until nearly the end of season one.
Yeah.
That'll come out as a.
I think they bring up the schedule separately.
Yeah, it's going to have to be a separate schedule then.
Yeah, the last 3 weeks of the Class A season one is Daytona, and then Las Vegas and Atlanta.
Is the Clash in I didn't even open up the one for the A. Is the Clash in there?
I didn't see it, but I just skimmed through it really quick.
No, I didn't see it in there. I think maybe the trucks are going to be at the Coliseum.
With that,
So it'll be even dirtier than the All-Star race was.
You imagine. Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, they're going to be week 8, LA Coliseum.
just giving the SR and IR away.
And I note the trucks are also going to be at the Kevin Harvick's Kern Raceway, too.
So we still have holiday sales going on, Mackenzie.
Yeah. So for the holiday sale, not exactly sure when this goes till, but for new members, it's 50% off. Oh, it goes till January 5th. Sorry. So yeah, if either you know someone or if you're someone who's looking to get into it, now's a good time because 50% off is pretty good. I know when I first started, I did the 50% off for the 2-year membership. So $100 instead of $200's a pretty big difference.
Or if you want the second account, the Smurf account.
All right, now we can start talking events. The first thing we have, Brad, is the eNASCAR International.
Yep. So the Invitational iRacing action featuring some of NASCAR's top drivers from around the world set to return December 12th. The eNASCAR International iRacing event waves the green flag 6 p.m. With more than 25 racers, including representatives from the NASCAR Canada Series, Mexico, Wheeling Euro, the NASCAR Brazil, and then the 3 National Touring Series. It's going to be a doubleheader at Los Angeles Coliseum and then at Brands Hatch as well. So skimming into this a little bit, looks like it's going to be pretty neat. A little bit of money on the line too. But I guess expected to have, I think Dale Jr. is supposed to be running in it perhaps, and then some other NASCAR guys as well. So again, pretty neat to see real life guys spending time in the sim.
Person, host of our Parker Kligerman, Ty Majeski, Raja Karuth.
And this next one, Donnie.
To watch.
This next one might be fun to participate in if you're fast enough, Donnie.
Yeah, the IMSA Esports. Oh, sorry about that. We're going to the NASCAR.
No, you're right. You had it right.
Okay, I'm sorry. The IMSA Esports Open Challenge, IMSA, iRacing, and VCO have something special in store for the final round of the IMSA Esports Global Championship, and you can be a part of it. I don't see the dates here. Looks like December 6th at Daytona. 5 GT4 cars to pick from, unlimited attempts, and your fastest lap counts. That's for the Time Attack Opens. And then it'll close on December 13th. They gave a a UTC time. But just check it out. December 6th it opens. Closes December
10th.
10th. There you go, 10th. And 5 GT4 cars to choose from.
Top 5 from each class are qualified, and then 25 racers will compete in a 20-minute dash on December 16th.
This looks like it could be a cool challenge to try.
More practice for Daytona. I guess a GT4 car.
It's a lot slower.
Yeah, just kind of wonder how fast you got to be.
The top 25 are going to be guys that are in their well over 5, 6, 7,000 in iRating.
You would think so, yeah. I mean, this is pretty cool, if you can get in with the big guys by, getting into this time attack and being fast.
I'm guessing that'll be in the normal time attack area to find that, to do it.
I've actually never done a time attack. Do you guys do those often or ever?
I do them when there's like special things on the line.
I'll say need Justin in here. He did the one for the Daytona event.
I don't like qualifying. I don't like racing on a track by myself. So, no.
I actually just checked. Yeah, they're in the time attack right now.
Yeah, because it has already opened.
It might be fun to go put up a lap just to see how you stack up.
There's a different time attack for each of the 5 cars in here also. So it's not just one time attack. You pick the car you want to do it for too.
Do all of us own a GT4 car?
I do.
I actually think I don't.
I do. Maybe.
Don't we have the BMW, David?
I don't recall, because anytime Majors was running that kind of area, I was always getting in the touring car.
Or the Merc too. There was the Merc that had it.
So I think I've got the Merc and
it.
I've got the Merc and the Porsche, I think.
Yeah, I've got the Mercedes and BMW.
Challenge accepted.
I'll try to get some done this weekend.
Well, Brian, where's the iRacing Weekly Challenge this week?
Let's take a look here. Is it the GT4 class at WeatherTech, Laguna Seca? Is that the one that's coming up? Looks like it.
Looks like.
Yeah, so we talked about this a couple weeks ago, but this is that new series where iRacing Challenge debuts in this season, and they do different cars at different tracks every week. So it's kind of like a hodgepodge of different events. We're starting with the GT4, and it goes from the Formula Fords, the 911 GT3s. There's a Skip Barber race, Toyota GT, Formula F3, Global Mazda, Radical SR10. Street stock at Watkins Glen. That sounds like it would be pretty cool. The Renault Clio at Lime Rock, the GT3s, Formula V so it's really bouncing around all the different types of cars. It sounds like a lot of fun if you like mess around with different cars and different track combinations.
I call this series the iRacing Revenue Series because it's how they get people to purchase cars and tracks.
Yeah, not a terrible idea, but really, more than half of those are free cars.
Yeah, I mean, 12 different cars, 12 different tracks.
I was thinking the prestige of winning this championship, whatever division you're in, it's extreme. This is bigger than winning a regular championship to me because of how diverse it is.
Yeah, but then we go back to the discussion we've had before: is how many people actually pay attention and worry about championships.
It's only road races though, right? So it'd be a road championship.
My concern too would be participation. Is it going to lack participation because of not everybody owns everything, and they don't want to buy it?
Well, Mike, you did something like this when they did that anniversary thing, that 15th year anniversary, where they took the original cars and raced at different tracks, didn't you? That was kind of fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, but they were all free tracks
It
and
was.
free cars, weren't they?
Right, yeah.
It was
So-
4 weeks or something. Yeah.
Most of those tracks on here aren't free, and I don't. Like I said, Mike's probably pretty close on there. Being it's going to be tough participation wise if people don't have all those type of tracks to do the whole. Because that's a lot of money. If you have none of it to start off with, and you want to run it, which probably you wouldn't, right?
Well, I think you're catering to the roadside of the surface too. So most likely, at least track wise, most everybody's going to have that. If they're a competitive road racer, they're going to have almost all these tracks.
Based on these combos, are you guys interested in any of these aside from the street stock in Watkins Glen?
Yeah. I mean, I think
Radical is interesting.
yeah. What do you get? How many drop weeks do you get in a 12-week series?
4.
Sweet. I think I could probably do 10 out of the 12, so without having to buy anything.
I could do. I don't have the Formula car. I'd have to buy the SR10, but I like the Radical, so I might go ahead. That might be a good excuse to go ahead and do that. And then we've run the Spa several times, so that's just another chance to practice at Spa in the GT3.
Is that Radical free? Do we own that?
I don't think the SR10
That's
is.
the newer one.
That's a newer one.
Yeah, I think I got at least 8 in there.
It all kind of comes down to time, though. I'm not committing that much time to running a bunch of random races, so.
It's supposed to be for fun.
Well, what might be fun, especially if you like, this is a dirt race, isn't it? The Chili Bowl?
Yep, sure is. Yeah, this is the iRacing Chili Bowl series is coming up, just like the real one is. It's being run December 11th through the 17th for the qualifying, and then super sessions are on Sunday. Yeah, so a fun race. It's the wingless cars. God, I can't even remember the name of them. Slipping my mind. At the Chili Bowl, just crazy small track.
It's the dirt midgets.
I ran this last.
You're right.
I ran this last year, super hard, especially when you don't do it. I might try it again this year, but honestly, my whole goal is just not wreck anybody, and it's very challenging. That's for sure.
I was hoping this build would come out with the 600cc winged sprint cars because they do run these at Chili Bowl as well, and they could have incorporated that into this special event. I thought that would have been neat. Kind of like a more of a beginner level special event race if you did that. Those midgets are really tough to get around that track. It's not easy to get them things around there quick, and the 600cc's I think would be a lot easier to drive and could get a little bit more participation.
All right, this next one we did talk about last week, I believe, right, John? E-Racing Omega Cup.
Yeah, we did. So E-Racing Association, it's a pay-to-play league that you can get into. They're going to do their Cup Winter Bowl, and I think registration's open for it right now. So you can get in on the forums. You can see the post about it and go to their website. But looks like a pretty good league, good organization, good rules. So it's worth checking out if you're interested in any kind of pay league. I think the E-Racing Association is a good one.
I'm surprised iRacing is pushing a particular league. Like they posted this on their website. There's an article at iRacing.com. They put it on the social media. But why this league and why a paid league? That's the only thing I'm wondering.
Well, I mean, they could be paying for sponsorship, essentially.
Maybe that's why. Yeah.
Well, there's top 5 finishers are going to split $5,000. So, that could be part of it. They're putting some money into this thing.
Yeah, I saw $27 when I went to go sign up. It looked like to get involved, but yeah, pretty cool. Get involved if you like to that kind of thing.
All right, then our last event, Mike, involves our guest from last week.
Yeah, the Sean Timmerman Memorial event is happening Thursday, December 21st. He hopes to have the largest dirt car event ever in the sim for this. If he needs everybody in Discord, and then he needs everybody to join the league, and he's trying to get everyone to join the league before I think the 10th, because then he has to figure out how to break it into heats and all that kind of stuff. So he really needs everybody to join in. Guys, just get involved, just so we can try to beat this record of how many people get involved in this dirt event. I signed up. It's going to be on a Thursday after the show recording, so I'm going to do it. Should be fun.
Are you sure it's going to be after the show?
Oh, maybe I'm not.
It's 7.
Maybe I will miss it. Well, wait a minute. If they have what he's hoping, I think he said 600 people racing, it's going to take a while to maybe get to my heat.
Ask them in the Discord to move your heat or something. Be in a heat that's later on.
Who knows? It's like herding cats. His Discord's kind of crazy. Podcast housekeeping. Leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform to make it easier for more listeners to find us. Mention the podcast to your fellow drivers so they don't miss out. We do appreciate it. Check us out on Discord and our website, iRacersLounge.com. We're in regular rotation at Performance Motorsports Network. And we have merchandise available, hats, T-shirts, and polos, and so forth. iRacersLounge.shop.
All right, let's open up hardware software with Fanatec issues. And I did give this one a watch because I'm one of the guys currently on Fanatec hardware. And I'm not terribly surprised to see it, but it looks like things have gotten even worse for them. It's Sim Racing Corners, and he's had a very bad experience with them where they're basically not getting to emails within like 20 to 21 days. They sent him a piece of equipment and did not send him the universal hub to go with it. That's supposed to be a part of it. And there's been a rash of complaints in their forums, including people who are getting their answers cancel or their orders canceled without getting refunded even.
Yeah, I watched it, and I think he ordered this back in September and still doesn't have the rest of it. As a guy that was in that ecosystem back when I was in iRacing before, any sort of service was horrible, just absolutely horrible. The correspondence took days, if not a week, and it just obviously it hasn't improved in the last 7 years.
Yeah, before I met you guys, I was in the Fanatec group, and my first RMA with the shifter that I no longer have installed here started me in the process of researching localized sim providers, and that's why everything on my rig now is North American based. And I've spoken to everybody personally that I bought equipment from, and talked to them about their customer service before I even bought anything, and it's been great.
Yeah, I think that's a good lesson learned. I'm stuck with the equipment back before we kind of knew how bad it was. But mine, I've been a little bit lucky, I guess, in that it's lasted me a while, but I'm not going to buy anything new for it. And I just hope it lasts as long as it can last before I have to switch over to something else.
Do you think the big problem with that company is it's Germany based, but then they try and have the American distributor here in California, and they just can't seem to produce anything, or they've never had a customer service that ever is like from day one. I've heard that they've never had a good customer service, but if they're saying it's getting worse, that's even bad because it was never good to begin with. But I just feel like they think they're, with the way their German heritage, Is that causing them to have a problem here in the United States with distributing it?
Well,
No, it's just bad customer service, and they didn't really have to use that much competition. They only had SimuCube. Now they got competition. They've lost sales, and so they're having to cut back on technical support staff, and it's just going to spiral. It really could be almost the end for them.
yeah, I mean they've had the distribution thing in California for quite a while, but all correspondence is back to Germany. I can remember 7 years ago, dealing with the Havington RMA, CSW base, back before direct drives, and it was just incredibly painful dealing with anything. I mean, I think when I sent mine back, it was gone for like 5 weeks, and you wait a week to get any sort of correspondence, and he sounds like he's having the same issues that they just haven't gone away.
The end of the video, this is a quote from the guy in the video. He says, quote, "They fucked me, they'll fuck you. Be careful out there." You can beat that if you want, David.
Well, are we tagged?
No,
I mean,
it's a public
yeah.
broadcast. You don't have to.
Yeah. So I don't need to believe it. I don't think.
We don't have any warnings for time, so it's fine. You don't have to worry about it.
Yep. So we're not going to get to all this hardware, Mike. Do you want to cherry pick the few that you think are the most important?
No, let's just go down the list.
All right. Well, then let's hit the DIM Sim Racing Button Box Pro. What do you think of this one, Mac?
Yeah, it's the DIM, like you said, the DIM Sim Racing Button Box Pro. It's a completely dismountable metal body, manual processing of parts before painting, powder resistant painting, high quality fasteners, 3 sides for mounting, ability to change the direction of the USB cable output. Electronics are compatible with PCs running Windows OS. The device is compatible with all simulators and games that support the simultaneous connection of more than one device, and equipped with a navigation pad made of aluminum plate. So it looks like a pretty cool looking button box. Is it just me, or do the buttons feel look close together, or is it just the way the colors are around them?
I was going to say it's a very compact design.
Very busy looking too.
Does this look like
Yeah.
it's only like hand size, or is it a little bit bigger than that, do you think?
I'm thinking it's a little bit bigger because one of the pictures shows a phone on resting on top of it, and it doesn't look much bigger than the phone.
So I have those. Go ahead.
I was just saying, I'm still trying to decide on a button box. I love the way this one looks. It's just I don't like the idea of getting a button box. I'm guessing it's already going to be decaled and everything, because I can't see where there's any pictures of anything not being decaled, which bothers me.
Yeah, the button box I built, I used the buttons on the bottom left and bottom right, and those are about the size of the end of a pen, so they're pretty small. I'm even thinking it'd be difficult to potentially read those letters they got imprinted on there. But I mean, if I take the stickers off this thing, it might look better to my eye, but right now it just looks really busy.
I like it. I think
Sorry, Mike.
no, that's okay. I just think I like how it's not deep. I like how it has side mounting. How many button boxes have you seen mounting holes on the side? I mean, that's unique. You can change which side of the box the USB comes out of. I've never heard of a button box doing that before. Usually they just have a USB coming out the back of it, right where you would mount this stupid thing, like in the worst spot ever. So there's a lot of good things about this button box.
It does look well made, that's for sure.
Looks pretty versatile too.
Yeah. Now, like I said, it's just for me. I need more information. Is it VESA mountable? Because that's what I would want. I want something that's got the VESA mount on the back, so I can go on to 80/20 pretty easy. Then again, I want to be able to customize it for what I want. I don't want to have something that's already predetermined as far as labels and all that.
This kind of seems like what I can't remember what company had that one big button box. It's kind of like a smaller version of it. The color wise, it was all being all pre labeled and pre colored. It's just like it just reminds me quickly of a small version of that. But I like it. It just um, I like to have make my own stuff. You know, predetermine my own buttons and not have something labeled wrong.
Not a whole lot of point of labels if you're in VR
67.
either.
This is true.
And for me, my button boxes are even being used on in a flight sim as well. So it is really handy to not have labels on them. All right, Mike, tell us a little bit about this SimCube 2 Pro review.
You know, this is food for my soul. This video. It's it reminds me why I made a good choice buying the SimiCube 2 Pro. Look, this is an old wheelbase. Everybody knows it. It's been out for years. But it's still top of the line, and this guy reminds us why. That this one might be even better than the Asetek with its fancy LEDs and everything and colors and whatnot, you know, and then you go back to the SimiCube with its real industrial look, you know, no thrills, black metal, you know, manly kind of motor. I don't know. Did anybody else watch this video? It definitely made me feel good about the wheel I drive.
You know, I didn't, Mike, but that's the wheel I have, obviously. And I take back what I said a few moments ago about everything being North American based. However, I did walk into a store and buy it here locally. But I did contact their customer service prior to purchasing the wheel just to kind of gauge what it would be like. And it was fantastic. Overseas, obviously, but responded within a reasonable amount of time, within a day. But I'm with you, Mike. I just like the simple look of it. It's simple. It works great. The software's great. Nothing. I've had no issues with this thing since day one.
I feel like this is probably when I upgrade and switch to direct drive. This would be something that I'm going to definitely um, be looking into. I just feel like for me, I want to try one of these direct drive wheels out and see what the difference is and stuff like that. I just don't have that experience with it yet, but maybe I should try one of those sim lounge places that we have here in Ontario and maybe test out one of these if they have one or something like this, just to see what the um, direct drives are like.
The one thing I do like about SimiCube, and I'm in Sim Magic, is what I've got, but I do love the idea that having all of the profiles that you can just go and try different profiles, load them. That's really cool, and that's the one thing that I wish Sim Magic had, because that's the one place I've struggled. Just continuing tweaking and tweaking and tweaking to try to get what I think is right.
See, I've never tweaked a force feedback profile with SimiCube. I've only used other people's profiles just because, like Brad said, it's so easy. Look, I jumped in the Ferrari yesterday to test out my rig after putting it together. And what profile did I load? Daniel Morad's GT3, profile, a real race car driver who's put one together, and it works great. And so there's no need for me to change it from that, and it really makes it easy. The other thing that this reviewer, the Sim Racing Reviews, pointed out about this, I'm remembering in the video, the beauty of the QR, the quick release on the SimiCube, it can't be more solid than that. Yeah, yes, the Asetek is faster to take on and off because you don't have to remove the pin and all that. But his take is it's still better. It's still got to be more solid just because of the way it's designed. Anyways, a simple design, and yeah, I'm real happy with that choice. Stop.
Start.
My stupid dog's barking.
All right. Well, how much torque does a torque need? that doesn't work, does it? E-Racing Academy is asking what you should expect from a force feedback wheel. All right. John, did you give this one a watch?
Yeah, I did. Jason at E-Racing Academy, was trying to give us a little bit of a guide on not so much what you should expect, but maybe what you should look for. And I think what I got out of this was, there's always this question of, well, how much, what do you need? 8 newton meters, 12, 20, 21. What he said the sweet spot is 7 to 10. That's what you want to look for. And he said, he wants to set it where you can feel what the car is doing, the perfect downforce. That's what you want to feel. We talked earlier about the new curbs that iRacing has. He said, I don't really care about that. He says, I want to feel what the car is doing. He said, I think 7 to 10 newton meters, that's where you want to get to.
Yeah, I watched the video, and I just think it gives a lot of good information. Kind of just walks through quite a bit. It's just everybody thinks, 23, 32 newton meters, whatever I need. The one thing I do think, and I agree with, the more strength you've got, it makes it easier to dial it back, and then you get a lot more fidelity when it comes out of stuff. And he talks quite a bit about that. Overall, I think just a great informational video. If you're thinking of going down the direct drive rabbit hole, I think it's a good one to watch.
I have a different take on it, though. I mean, I like to run everything 100. Well, I like to start everything at 100%, just to see what it feels like, and then I bring it back to something that I can actually race with. But when I get into an Indy car, an IR18 at Michigan, and I go around the track and I hit auto, that baby's running 25 newton meters, okay? And you go into the corner and you have to turn that freaking wheel, and it makes it feel like a real Indy car. And so I kind of like that recreation of the forces. But now, if I go to race that car at Michigan for 20 laps, you know what? I'm probably going to dial that down 40%. But when I first started, I like to try it, at full force.
I like to get it as high as I can without it, causing carpal tunnel syndrome, essentially, because it actually can affect how the car handles too. The harder it is to turn the wheel, the less likely you are to oversteer it. And I think that's one of the things that helps me take care of my tires is that I can't. It's so much harder to put so much wheel into it. Not only am I not only going to get loose going into the corner, I'm not going to overturn it and turn the car with the wheel instead of the throttle. So I get a handling boost out of it, I think, by cranking it as high as I can. Agreed.
Like last night, Justin had a hard time with tire management, and he was running his tires off even more than I was. And David, you told him why he's turning the wheel too much. Never turn the wheel past, say, 10 o'clock. And so I realized that as you were saying that the force feedback actually prevents me from going past the 10 o'clock spot. Like it's harder to turn it past that spot because you're forcing the wheel more, and you can feel that difference in forces. And if you're going that stronger force, you're actually scrubbing your tires.
Fortunately, I don't think any of us have had to really worry about overheating. But what about this next guy, Donnie?
Sorry, I got to scroll back up. You'll have to cut that out. Anybody have T3100 or T300 Thrustmaster wheels?
That's what I used for about a year before I got my direct drive. I never had this overheating problem. So
you never cut a hole and put a fan in it?
Never did that. Never had to. Thing worked like a charm. But this guy obviously had a problem. He just popped a hole in it and put a fan in there.
Yeah. David Vivas from the DIY Sim Racer asked if you might be having overheating issues with your Thrustmaster T300 like he did. And when I first saw this picture, I thought the fan was just a part of the thing and he took the cover off, but apparently It looks like he took a bite out of the top of his wheelbase and then bolted his own fan in there to check it out. And then he apologizes for the wire being that way and not the bite mark out of the side of it. But yeah, I've never had this wheel, never experienced it. But so you never had any heating issues there, John?
No, I never did, but a lot of guys did. You know, when I would get on the forums and things for Thrustmaster, guys complained about this quite a bit. But I never cranked up the force feedback on it super high. So I'm assuming maybe that's the problem. They've just got it set too high for too long. And, I would assume this wheel's got limitations in that regard. So maybe that's what his problem is. Just dial it down a little bit.
What did he cut the plastic open with there? It looks like a wire cutters or some pliers or something. Like you said, it looks like a bite mark almost. It's pretty jagged.
He used a hammer, some kind of Phillips, maybe even a standard screwdriver. Not a hacksaw, nothing straight there. Maybe a lighter at one point to kind of melt the edge. Who knows?
That's a new one.
Definitely not a Dremel.
Well, David, we got time for one more.
So you're saying we should not avoid the next topic?
No, I'll take it. Daniel Gray has a YouTube channel, and he gave his opinion on 10 products you should avoid buying for sim racing. And I'll list them off here. Custom rims for the Logitech G29. Folding rigs, any rigs that fold. Anything that's called play seat. Never buy the Next Level Racing FGT rig. Never buy the Track Racer GT Rally seat. Never buy the integrated monitor stands. Never buy the Thrustmaster belt driven. Never buy the Thrustmaster DD, and never buy the VRS wheel rim or the Real Car sim rims.
Here's my problem, Mike. Everybody starts from somewhere. Everybody has a background. Everybody has a budget. Did this guy buy everything and try it to be able to tell people not to buy the stuff?
He said he's had some of it, but
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the stuff. I mean, I can agree with. I mean,
I
got a
agree
play
with some
seat.
of this stuff
What's
too.
wrong with the play seat when you're starting out? Like, you got to start somewhere, like Donnie was saying.
Yeah, but Greg, would you have bought the play seat if you'd known what you know now?
Obviously that.
But when I only had $200 or $300 to start off with and race,
There were still better options for the same amount of money, though.
for $200 or $300, not in Canada, there isn't.
Well, I'm going to give Daniel Gray here a little bit of credit for shooting this video, and he didn't come off like a jerk, and he could have easily come off a jerk saying, "Here, don't buy this." For the most part, I think his reasoning for some of the stuff was pretty solid. So, like, the Real Car sim rims, he's not saying that they're bad, but do you really want to pay $10,000 for a wheel? It doesn't make sense. Same with the VRS. It's a good rim, but for the price, you can get better rims for a lot less. So the Thrustmaster DD, we had some issues with that. The Thrustmaster belt driven is like, this thing is obsolete with the pricing of the direct drive wheels. There's no reason to buy this belt driven wheel when direct drive wheels are so cheap. Thrustmaster DD just thought was overpriced as well. So some of it was just like, for the price, and it's stuff that we've talked about before. Some of the stuff on their show, it's like, yeah, this is a good product, but it looks like it seems pretty high.
Do you guys have any problems with your integrated monitor stands?
I do. I do, and the reason is because, I'm on motion, and when my rig starts to move around, the monitor's moving around, and I get those like white spots on the screen from the screen shaking. So I'm just getting ready myself to redo it. So I'm going to take the monitor off. And I don't really use it for racing anyway, but if somebody's watching me race, it's like, wow, they can't even see what I'm doing because I'm in VR. But I'm getting rid of my integrated mount. I'm just going to do a standalone.
Yeah, I don't have any issues with mine. I mean, I got a TR-160 with the integrated. I had to do it for space-wise, where I needed to put it in the corner of the basement. I just couldn't do a freestanding stand. But that, I mean, the 80/20 rigs, the stuff is, I think, strength-wise is fine. Again, if you're going to use motion, no, I would never do integrated if I had motion.
Yeah. Other than that, it's fine. Because when when I was doing some testing with my computer and I was racing without the VR and without motion, the monitor was fine then. But it's just when you start moving, it's a problem.
Weren't we at some point talking that you would want them integrated if you had motion, so then the monitors would move with you?
Yes, and if I wasn't in VR, that would probably be the case. I'd maybe try to figure out a better way to mount them, but because I'm in VR, I'm not really. I would be concerned about you're moving and the screen's not, and that could be a little disorienting possibly. But I don't run with the I don't run in with the monitor anyway. I'm in VR, so it doesn't really matter.
Now, has there ever been anybody talk about this? Like, is there a specific brand that is good for using motion? That, like, because obviously monitors aren't meant to be jerked around and be vibrating and moving all the time. So, is there a specific brand that might put up with it better than others if you were doing motion?
That's a good question. Just because you pay more for a monitor, it might be higher quality, but doesn't necessarily mean it's built to take that kind of jarring around and stuff. So I think that's a good point. I've never really seen anything that said, this is a great monitor if you're going to be bouncing around the room.
All right, let's jump to results and talk about the league race at the Winter Series. David, P8.
Yeah, was happy to keep a streak of top tens going, I guess. And this one we had one caution. Unfortunately, it took Brad out, and it was right in the middle of green flag stops, I guess, as well. Some people were really on a weird strategy and were only pitting, like they were pitting every 50 laps, going to try to make it 3 stops instead of 2 stops, maybe because they were tearing their tires up. But it was nice to keep the streak going. I had good long run speed and was wearing my tire out less than anybody, and ran down cars that were always way quicker than me, except for the last 10 laps of the run.
All right. Brad Wren, you got wrecked out in the only caution.
Yeah, can you guys hear me? Okay, yeah, my laptop died. Sorry. Yeah, I mean, we got about getting ready to pit stops, and I ran too hard to begin with. I wanted to the first run. I wanted to run the car a little hard just to see what it would do. Planning to back off a little bit, after getting a pit stop, and was letting Justin by, and had a car. The guy had pitted, got fresh tires, and then decides that it's a great idea to go ahead and split us coming off of 4. I watched the replay a bunch of times, and I held my line. He just came up and took me, then right across my nose, and just completely destroyed the car. So very frustrating night. I mean, you just think the racing has been so clean in there, but we had the opportunity to win at Atlanta, and that ended up going bad, and I don't know, just a very frustrating night.
Timely caution for me. I was just begging for a caution before green flag stops, and you were it. So, the first run for me, I ran the tires off. I was fading. It was back at the back basically, and so after the caution, I got up in there like 16th or something. But from there on, somehow I used more fuel than the rest of them, and I had the pit with 5 to go for a splash and go, while other people could make it on fuel. So I ended up finishing 22nd, but really ran about 12th most of the race. I was following David for a while until the tires got too old and I lost him. But it was good to be back, and I ran about how I normally do. Justin, he had a P19.
And he just was struggling with keeping the tires on the car.
I did run Pro Trucks week 13 at the Figure 8 Irwindale, and finished P2. after being spun on the first lap and was dead last. I made it clear back up to P2. Almost won the thing. And then, John, you had a P1.
Yeah, I ran that Delara IR18 series at iRacing Super Speedway. Started P14. You know how the draft is at that track with those cars. You can catch anybody. And coming out of turn 3, I was in 3rd place. Made it 3 wide coming down the front stretch and won by 2/1000ths of a second.
Nice win.
Yeah, felt good. It's been quite a while since I've won one, and I like running those cars just because of the speed. So it was a lot of fun. Close race.
Okay, let's jump to final thoughts. David Hall.
I think I'm excited to see this oval roundup or oval overhaul thing. I hope it makes things change in my favor, because the last year I felt like I lost a step or something on the oval side, and I'm hoping things turn around this year. We'll see.
Right, Greg Hectus, final thoughts.
I'm just looking forward to like what David's saying. They're just racing here. I haven't had a chance to. I missed the race last night because of a problem with with my laptop. I had to go solve something else with a laptop before, and I just didn't get home in time. But I've moved out of VR and back to triples again, so I got to get back to used to driving that again. I was just having a problem with my eyes for some reason in VR, and I just wasn't having the concentration that I normally like to, so I'm going to put it back on triples again, and we'll see how it goes. But hopefully next week, the Winter Series is at Watkins Glen, so I look forward to the road course, which I always do, so can't wait for that. And yeah, I'm just sad that I missed the Charlotte race.
Yeah, Alan came by after the race and said, man, we need more people in this league. Try to get the rest of your teammates to show up. And so they were missing Greg and John both last night. All right, and then Brian McCubbin.
So I got all my parts for the computer build, so it's not just build week for iRacing, it's build week for me. So this weekend I plan on taking my first stab at building a gaming computer. So wish me luck.
Don't be afraid to hit us up on the chat for help, and we have a lot of good people on the team that can build computers.
Yeah, and you guys are great. I appreciate all your help.
All right, Brad Wren, final thought?
Excited. Gonna miss the Winter League race next Wednesday. I'm actually gonna run in the Ralph Fenway Keselowski Holiday Showdown. So they're doing a streamed race next Wednesday from Michigan at 8:30. My understanding, gonna get to race with Chris Buescher. So pretty excited. Was an invite, I had to fill out an application and got picked. So I'm pretty excited about that. It's only, I think, 40 people doing it. So looking forward to that. That should be fun. It's going to have they're going to do stage breaks in it manually. So that should be kind of interesting. But looking forward to that, and just kind of ready to get back to a new season next week. Like everybody else, excited about the oval refresh, and hoping that it brings back some of the stuff that I remembered 6 or 7 years ago when I was last on the service.
All right, John Curley.
Well, I missed last night's race, felt bad, but I was watching my grandkids' Christmas program at school in Missouri, so hey, had a good time doing that. Glad I made that. Didn't race a lot this week because I was building my new sim rig, so I'm looking forward to hitting week 1 of the new season with this sim rig, getting the adjustments made, and have fun with it. It's been a new experience so far. Loving it.
And you cleaned off your metal outside before you brought it in the house, right?
Yeah. Track racer tip of the day, man. Take that thing out of the box outside, because there's going to be styrofoam everywhere. So I took the advice of you guys and did that, and didn't have a whole lot of a mess.
I wish I'd have done the same thing.
The other thing too, as we speak, I believe the picks are being made for DJEJ's Drive Smart to Daytona, so I'm hoping Justin Pearson gets picked and gets in that.
Yeah, we've been following Justin's journey. He's been in the time attack trying to keep in the top 200 and kept dropping down and down and down and but he eventually stayed in it, and he ran the race, and he actually got wrecked on the first lap of that event, but still hopes to have a good pick. All right, Mackenzie Stevens, final thought.
Yeah, I've been doing quite a few of the street stock races. I was gaining some iRating from it, but now I kind of put myself in a bad spot because I had one bad race where I lost 0.77 in safety rating, and now I'm actually under 2, so now I got to run some more races and just stay out of trouble so I don't lose my A license.
Ouch. All right, Donnie Spiker, final thought.
Make sure you announce before your races that you there for the iRating or safety rating. That should go well. Not much, Mike. I'm just glad you had me back for a rare appearance. I've been away for a while and off the rig for a while as well. But I'm excited to be getting to build some GT3 and GT4 sets for the upcoming season. That's what we'll be focusing on for the next few weeks. But other than that, not much.
All right, yeah, welcome back. My final thoughts is I'm welcome back. I love being back on the service. It's been a month, roughly. That was a long month without racing, and I was trying to find what to do with myself when there was nothing to race. And it was interesting, but I'm done with that experiment. I'm glad to be back in the rig. I did not put it together first. I put the bed together first. I put the living room together first. I made sure I had groceries and I could do stuff like that. And then I put the rig together. But it came out really well, except for one of my two fans doesn't work for the wind sim, and I cannot figure out why. I've checked the wiring and don't know what's wrong, but I'm just going to go with it at this point. I'm expecting 3 more cables to arrive tomorrow to finish out the ambient lighting system. Mackenzie, you gave me an idea of just plugging those 3 extra lights I have into those wires and just plug them in. I'm going to put them behind the triples and just have them shine on the wall, kind of thing. So it should look pretty cool, but it'll be together tomorrow and completely done. And with that, we'll see you on the track later. All right, title ideas.